Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Bank Shop Breakdown. We're going to go over 5 college basketball games for Friday, December 2nd, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your college basketball picks in the comments section below, and if you're looking for my best bets, you can always find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Friday in college basketball. First up, we're going to go over the biggest game on the board for Friday's card. It's going to be between number 6 Baylor and number 14 Gonzaga. This one an 8 o'clock Eastern start time at a neutral site in South Dakota. Now, I wanted to go over this game because it's a pretty small card on Friday, and this is by far the biggest game just in terms of the marquee matchup on the card. But in all actuality, it's not really my favorite game on the board in terms of betting. I do think it's going to be a great one to watch in terms of entertainment value, and it's why I wanted to cover it. But, both of these teams kind of hard to read right now. Gonzaga 5-2, Baylor 5-2, so you're not used to seeing either of these programs have 2 losses before December, or right in the beginning of December. Baylor's coming off their loss. It was a blowout loss on the road at Marquette, 96-70. In that game, Marquette shot 12 of 25 from 3, 48%. And Baylor has really struggled defending the perimeter this season. They're ranked 335th in three-point defense. We saw in their loss against Virginia. Virginia shot 9 of 14, 64% from 3 against Baylor. And that's a big worry when you look at Gonzaga, a team that loves to shoot from deep. They're 14th ranked in the country in three-point shooting percentage. But for me in this game, I think you see a total set so high, and for good reason. I mean, both of these teams like to play very fast. They're both very efficient on the offensive side of things. But we got to remember, last year Gonzaga was ranked 10th in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. I think Baylor is a lot better than what we've seen on the defensive end so far. Last year they were ranked 13th, and yes, they lost a lot of production. Both teams did from last year's team, but Baylor is a lot better than what we've seen defensively this season so far. 263rd in effective field goal percentage defense. I think Baylor's going to improve those numbers quite a bit from when we get to a conference play in the Big 12. I think this is going to be a little bit of a kind of a contrarian play. Most people would think, you see these two teams struggling defensively. They're very fast-paced. They're good scorers. You would take the over, but because this total is set so high, I think the value is on the under. We don't even need a low-scoring game to get under this total. We can have both teams score in the high 70s and still get under the number by a pretty good margin. So I'm leaning right now towards the under and a little bit of a lean on Gonzaga as well, just because Baylor, I would say, is in worse form overall. And if Baylor was at home, maybe I'd take a shot with the Bears, but at a neutral site, I don't really love it. So like I said, not my favorite game on the board, but I'm leaning towards the under and Gonzaga in this one. Next up, we have another big-time matchup. It's going to be in the Big Ten Conference with Illinois and Maryland. Number 16 Illinois, number 22 Maryland. 9 o'clock Eastern start time on Big Ten Network. Now, Illinois 6-1 to start the season. Their only loss was to Virginia, so really no shame in that. Very good Virginia team this season. That was a 9-point loss at a neutral site, but they have some nice wins over Syracuse and UCLA. On the other side, we see Maryland 7-0 to start the year. A little bit of a weaker strength of schedule, but still 2 wins over top 45 teams in KenPom in St. Louis and Miami, Florida. 2 blowout wins, really, in both of those games. And most of the games Maryland has played in have been blowout wins for them. So they're in great shape going into this one. A home game for the Terrapins. And, I do worry a little bit about Illinois and their turnover percentage on offense. They're ranked 258th in the country, turning the ball over on 20.7% of their offensive possessions. Maryland's defense has been very, very good this season. They're able to force those turnovers, but overall they're ranked 33rd in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency. On the road here, and the first true road test of the season, Illinois is either played at home or at a neutral site, but in a road environment, when you turn the ball over a lot and you're also struggling at the free throw line, those are 2 very big things. Other than rebounding, you could probably make it the big 3. If you don't take care of the basketball, you don't attack the glass. Illinois has done a good job on rebounding, and you don't make your free throws, it is really tough to win or even cover on the road in a conference game against a really good team like Maryland. So I don't like this matchup for Illinois. I do think Maryland we're going to find some value betting against them just because of how great they are to start the season. There's going to be some natural regression concerns for any team that starts as well as Maryland has, but this is not the game. I don't think we're going to see it in this game. So give me Maryland. I'm going to lay the points with the Terrapins. Next up, we see South Dakota State taking on Kent State. This one a 7 o'clock Eastern start time on ESPN3. South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, struggling a little bit to start the year. They're still ranked 141st in KenPom, which is very good for a Summit League team, but not as good as where we've seen some South Dakota State teams in years past, including last year's team. Now, we knew there was going to be some growing pains. This team lost a lot of production from last year's team, but 3-4 to start the season. They're coming off a blowout loss to James Madison. They got beat by double digits to Stephen F. Austin. They had a couple other losses to some pretty good teams. And the big thing that I'm concerned with South Dakota State is the turnover percentage. They're ranked 358th in the country in turnovers on offense, 25.6% of their possessions. They're giving the ball the other way. And it's not like most of these have been kind of unlucky situations. They're 363rd in steal percentage on offense. So teams are stealing the ball on them almost 16% of their possessions. And when you've got a Kent State team that's ranked 6th in the country in turnover percentage on defense, forcing those turnovers on 28.6% of their opponent's possessions, it does not make for a very good matchup on paper. Now, I do think that the numbers will improve for the Jackrabbits. This is a very good offensive team in years past, the last decade or so, one of the better offensive teams in these mid-major conferences. So, I don't think that number is going to hang around there for much longer, but still, you got to look at the fact that that's their one kryptonite. The turnovers and offensive rebounding have been plaguing this South Dakota State team, and Kent State is top 10 in the country in forcing those turnovers on defense. Both teams are solid defensively, but I do think Kent State, being the home team, they have some scoring punch with Sincere Carey, one of the best shooters in the country, in my opinion. I think this Kent State team is real good this season, and until South Dakota State sharpens things up on offense, attacks the offensive glass, and limits those turnovers, I just can't back them in a road spot here. So give me Kent State here laying the points. Next up, we see an ACC matchup between Pittsburgh and NC State. This one's going to be a home game for NC State. It's also going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time on ACC Network. I think this is a perfect letdown spot for Pittsburgh. I'm going to fade them here and take NC State, who I still believe is the much better team, even though Pittsburgh coming off that big-time upset win over Northwestern. You got to look at the numbers in that game. Pittsburgh shot 14 of 22 from 3, 63.6% for a team that's not really known for being very good at the perimeter at all. I think it was more of a fluke performance than anything else. And, still, you got to give them credit. They're on a 4-game win streak. They look great in that game in a tough road spot against a good Big Ten team. But this is still a Pittsburgh team I expect to be near the bottom of the standings in the ACC. Do I think NC State's a great team themselves? Not necessarily, but it's still a team that can score a lot of points. They played a very tough non-conference schedule. They played Kansas, Dayton, Butler. They took 2 of those 3 games in terms of winning them, and Butler just beating Kansas State shows that Butler win's a little bit more impressive than what we thought. 32 ranked in adjusted offensive efficiency. They take care of the basketball. They're a good shooting team, and their defense has improved quite a bit from where we saw it at the beginning of the year. So I like NC State, a good letdown spot for Pittsburgh. Give me the Wolfpack laying the points. Next up, we see Charleston Southern taking on South Florida. The final game we're going to go over for Friday's card. This one a home game for South Florida. It's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time on ESPN+. Now, it's not easy being a South Florida fan in college basketball. This team has been really frustrating to watch overall. And there's no surprise when you look at Ken Palm's luck rating. It takes into account how efficient a team is and what their record is. Does that record kind of add up to how well they're playing? And South Florida is ranked 3rd worst in luck rating, telling me they're probably going to get some better results as the season continues. They're 2-6, but I think they're a lot better than 2-6 overall. And I think they're also a lot better than Charleston Southern. So I'm going to take the Bulls and lay the points here. Charleston Southern's ranked 316th in adjusted defensive efficiency. That's where South Florida has a real big advantage. This is a good South Florida defense, even though it's very tough to see the Bulls' offense sometimes. Not a very good shooting team, but they've taken care of the basketball, which is a big thing. Last year they had some issues with turnovers. This year they're in the top 125 in turnover percentage. A big improvement there. They're also attacking the offensive glass, and Charleston Southern's really struggled in defensive rebounding. So I think South Florida has a big advantage there. And like I said, this is a good South Florida defense. You look at Charleston Southern's offense. Yes, their shooting numbers from the perimeter have been pretty good, and they're good on the offensive glass as well. But this is still a team ranked 244th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Not much better than South Florida overall. The defense advantage that South Florida has here, being the home team as well, I like their chances. I'm going to take the South Florida Bulls and lay the points to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in college hoops. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your college basketball plays in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.